Hey YouTube, this is Super Bob Muffin back with another video, and today I want to talk about Nintendo. This is going to be a Nintendo rant, and I haven't actually done a game company rant before, so let's get started. So Nintendo, we know what they're like today, and we know what they were like in the past, but I just want to pretty much just give my thoughts and opinion about Nintendo in general, my thoughts and feelings about it. So let's go back to Nintendo back in the late 80s and the early 90s, with the introduction of the NES. you know Obviously Nintendo was dominant in the game industry, with it had a steady library of first party and third party support, and everyone loved them. And then there came the Super Nintendo again. Nintendo was dominant with their console. It was ahead of Sega Genesis. It was ahead of the competition of all the other consoles, in that period, with first party titles and third party titles. Up until like the N64 release, that's when Nintendo's popularity began to decline with the introduction of the PlayStation, because some developers felt like they wanted to focus shift from Nintendo over to Sony's newer console, which means Nintendo clearly began to lose its third-party support. Now, Nintendo still had a fair amount of third-party support, not as much as I used to in the past, along with a decent library of first-party titles. And then there came the GameCube. Now that's where Nintendo really started to go downhill from there. And I have to agree, I had a GameCube, but I will admit there really weren't a whole lot of software choices, for the GameCube, because by then, the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox was already on the market by then, and Nintendo was catered to more casuals. Now, what I meant by casuals, I'm talking about Mario, racing, collecting coins, jumping, hopping on Goombas. Was not catered towards hardcore, and I'm not talking about hardcore in terms of first-person shooters, but what I meant by hardcore is to have a variety of genre games on Nintendo, like more RPGs, sports game, more decent stuff game, more RTS, some sort of MMO, pretty much anything that we see today. I would like to have Nintendo more of, instead of focusing on games, you know, intended for children. Now, despite that, I love the GameCube and I love games. I think the first game I got for the GameCube was Melee, along with a few other titles, and that's when I was first introduced to Splinter Cell. But however, being older, I played the other versions, and that's one thing I never did like about Nintendo. Was like when we got a third-party game, it was always a watered-down port. It was basically like a completely different slash uninteresting version that nobody really cared about. So yeah, then came, let's see, then well, November 2004, then there came Nintendo's handheld system, the DS, which was a big success. I love the DS. I have a couple games. Somewhere around the house. The whole dual screen thing was a big thing back then, and everyone loved it. Nintendo, they really did well with the 3DS. Then here comes the Nintendo Wii. Now, I have the Wii. I have, as much as people criticize the Wii, as much as I have in the past, I still play it every now and again. Every now and then, I'll admit the reason why the Wii it's sold about, I believe 100 million copies as of now. Yeah, so because like the whole motion control, that was a gimmick that casuals, they found engaging and enticing. People who weren't really gamers, such as mom and dads, grandmas and grandpas. Pretty much everybody loved the Wii, and plus Wii Sports. came Wii Sports. It came bundled with the system. So yeah, I mean it was a big thing, and then Nintendo, it also had some games. Of course, we all had to wait on their Mario's, Zeldas, Donkey Kong's, Kirby's, which is stupid because they should have been there at launch. So instead, Nintendo was waiting on third-party support. Which, by the way, the third-party games that we had on Wii were just terrible. I remember buying Call of Duty 3 on the Wii. It was a mess. It was just terrible. Then I eventually played the Xbox version. That was great. It made me wonder, like, Nintendo, why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep making people wait on their Mario's and Zeldas instead of just waiting on those games? Why not just have new IPs at launch straight out of the gate? So yeah, the Wii, it did great, but it really didn't have a whole lot of games to go with it, which is a big disappointment. Like, jeez. Well, now before anybody starts to criticize, yeah, that's my dog just messing around. Like, I still play my Wii. I have Pandora's Tower, have the last story, and the girlfriend recently just let me play Twilight Princess. So yeah, I still play my Wii. You know, as much as I like, as much as I often complain about the Wii, there's still games I still play it on. Then there came Nintendo's 3DS, which when it first launched, consumers complained about the $250 price tag, and on Plus, there were no games. There were no games for the system at launch. So, what happened? 6 months later, Nintendo, they cut the price of the 3DS from 250 to, I believe, $170, and then by then there were already some games out with first party and some interesting third party games. I remember I got my 3DS 6 months after it came out, and I think the first game I got with it was Ocarina of Time 3D and Resident Evil Revelations. But now the 3DS is selling really well. That's like Nintendo's best-selling uh, product right now because it has a lot of interesting first-party games and it has interesting third-party games. And plus, the eShop, which I gotta admit is really well. Like I love the eShop. Now, okay, now here comes the Wii U. I know people who love Nintendo, who love the Wii U, aren't gonna like what I say, but the Wii U, like, what you guys don't understand is the Wii U, it might be picking up sales, but it's not a console choice that many people would buy, and I'll explain. The problem I have with the Wii U is the fact that the tablet controller itself, that Nintendo thought the tablet controller was going to be this huge gimmick, but people already have smartphones and tablets they can do that with. They don't want the Wii U. And on top of that, the Wii U itself, it just sounds like an add-on for the Wii. When I first heard of the Wii U, I thought it was an add-on for the Wii. And there are people that I personally know who don't even know what the Wii U is. I told them, hey, so I asked them, so what do you think about the Wii U? And they're thinking, Wii U? What is that? Like, but that's Nintendo's poor marketing right there. Like, the marketing for the Wii U was very, very terrible. I don't know what Nintendo was thinking when they came up with that. And of course there were no games at launch, which is unfortunate. It's like, how could you just sit there and not have games at launch? I don't get it. Now recently I just watched a video. Well, this article slash video was a couple of days old, but I'm not just talking about it. Where Adam Sessler, who was a former member of G4, and now he is part of Rev Games, he recently he sat down with two other people. It was about the E3 wrap up, and they were discussing about Nintendo. And Adam Sessler himself said that Satoru Iwata and Reggie Fils-Aimé, should be fired, and Nintendo needs new management because how can you sit there? How can you release a console at the end of 2012, and we're now just getting games at the end of this year and spring of 2014? That is unacceptable. That is irresponsible. And Reggie goes on and on saying that people, they want the Marios and Zeldas. So what they do, they decide to rely on third-party support. But as we all know, Nintendo's not getting the third-party support because developers, they don't feel like. Now there is speculation saying the Wii U is underpowered. The Wii U is not underpowered. I don't exactly know the full story, but third-party developers are not interested in developing for the console, especially since their third-party games don't exactly sell well on the Wii U port, and mostly because some of these Wii U ports I either have frame rate issues or strict features. Now, I can think of two examples of strict features, such as Sniper V Elite 2. I believe it took out the co-op, it took out the multiplayer, it took out other features. Injustice, it had strict features as well. So basically, you want people, you want third-party support, but when you get it, it isn't exactly what you wanted, and consumers aren't happy about it. Batman, like Arkham, like Batman, Armored Edition. Like, honestly, I already had the Game of the Year edition, and guess what? You can go out and get that same game for $20. So why would you want to get it on the Wii U? All it is, it's the same exact game, but it just revolves about using the tablet controller. Oh, and by the way, there's frame rate issues. Sorry to say. Anyway, so yeah, don't buy these third-party games for the Wii U. They're just not worth it. Now, zombieu, supposedly Ubisoft is saying that they were disappointed with the sales, and there won't be a sequel to the game. And I'll have an article on that and Adam Sessler's interview down in the description below. But man, I just Nintendo is like, what are you guys doing? Like, I love Nintendo and I want to see them do good. I hate to see people lose their job, but I have to agree with Adam Sessler that Satora and Reggie, they just need to be fired. You know, you could have had brand new IPs, something never seen or done before, at launch to get people to buy your game. And don't make it another kiddie game. Like, Nintendo needs to start going for hardcore, as in, I mean, no, just lay off the first-person shooter genre. Like, get out there and think. What kind of, like, they just have to think, like, what kind of games that would draw a huge audience that aren't oriented towards children. Nintendo needs to start doing that. I grew up with Nintendo. I grew up with their products. But now they're slacking off. And I don't like that. Like, Nintendo, I'm a grown man. I'm tired of going around saving Princess Peach 100,000 times. And she doesn't even put out for Mario, or going around jumping on Koopas, or stomping Goombas, or whatever. Tired of that. You know? As much as I love Zelda and Donkey Kong, I'm tired of those games. I want something new, Nintendo. Pikmin 3? Come on. You could have made a new IP. Do we really need a third Pikmin? Why not make a brand new IP that will get people to buy your system? On top of that, the Wii U itself, no Ethernet port, which means Electrofest, and there's no DVD port. Now, some of you are probably saying, oh, Nintendo, it's strictly gaming. It's 2013. You should have the ability to play DVDs on your Wii U. Heck, like, I play DVDs on my 360 and my PS3, so I figure Nintendo's console should be able to do that, right? Nope, not at all. So it gets me thinking, like, what is Nintendo thinking? Nintendo, what is your problem? And on top of that, the no online, like, lack of online. Now, personally, I'm not an online gamer myself. I'm more of a single player oriented person, but Nintendo's not thinking outside the box. Yeah, for offline multiplayer, that's great for kids, for little kids still in school, still living at home with their parents, and they live close to their friends. They can go hang out, and they can all go to each other's houses and play on the same TV. But when you have people like me, a couple of my friends, who are busy with school and work, who live out of state, want to get together, we should be able to do that by getting online. It's hard, it's just hard to get people together nowadays. Nintendo, like, the people who grew up with your products, they're grown now. They have lives. There are things that keep them busy, and they should be able to play with their friends online. But you guys aren't. You guys aren't supporting those people, and it's sad, Nintendo. It's really sad, and you guys really need to just turn around. You need to start going for online. You should. I think all your games from this point on, not all of them, but majority of them should support online for those people that have trouble getting together and playing with their friends. Nintendo, I'm serious. Nintendo, I'm trying to help you guys out. You guys don't exactly have the best image right now, but trying to help you guys out. Now, people who watch this, I'm not a Nintendo hater, but sometimes if you care about something, you will give you will give credit when it's due, and you will give criticism where it's due. For example, let's just say you're a parent and your child did something great. You gave them credit, and your child did something that was displeasing to you, upsetting toward you. You will give your child. You know, you would say something. You would say something about it. Give your child criticism to where they would better themselves. It's the same for Nintendo. Don't defend Nintendo for what they're doing. Let them know what they're doing is wrong, and make them do better. So that's all the people who don't like Nintendo we're doing. We don't hate Nintendo. We just want Nintendo to take the right steps and do better. So that's pretty much all what I have to say. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. Rate, comment, subscribe, and if you guys have a topic or an article you guys would like for me to discuss, private message me through the inbox. And if I ever decide to use that one day, then I will give you a shout out in the video and have a link to your YouTube channel. But keep in mind, you gotta have videos. You gotta have videos. So this is Super Muffin. This is Super Bob Muffin signing out, and you guys have a good one.